My name is Jane Duncan Rogers of giftedbygrief.com, and I'm a life, death and small business coach. I have a background also in psychotherapy and counselling, having run a private practice successfully for, well, the best part of 20 years. And everything changed in 2010 when my husband was diagnosed with cancer. And this really affected my business, as you can imagine. I wasn't able to work in quite the same way as he was also my business partner. And so we really had to adjust, and some of you I'm sure will understand what that's about. And then he died a year later. And that was even worse. I discovered that I could hardly work at all. I couldn't do my coaching. I previously would have been able to see maybe 4 or 5 clients in a day, back to back, being very efficient, and suddenly I could see one maybe every 2 days. And as you can imagine, that was a big effect on my business. I know this all sounds really gloomy, and I feel a bit wobbly talking about it. But there have been some gifts that came out of that. And my husband died 4 years ago. And last year I published Gifted by Grief, a true story of cancer, loss and rebirth. And I wanted to read a little bit of it from you, a little bit from this book for you tonight, because in our last year, we did something that turned out to be an amazing gift. There were a lot of gifts actually, but this is one of them. We had been encouraged by a friend to ask each other some questions that Philip needed to answer, questions that she insisted we answer before he died. And that's what this short bit is about. I pestered Philip about these questions one Saturday morning. Come on, we're going to do this list properly now. He was still reluctant, but lying in bed with me and the laptop next to him, he didn't have a chance. It's going to make a huge difference to me in the future, darling, and besides, Barbara will just nag us if we don't. Yeah, all right then. Poor Philip. For a man afraid of dying, this was an amazing act of courage, another step in the acceptance of what was happening. We began at the beginning and continued on until the end, referring to it later as our final project together. In those 2 hours, I asked him the questions and he gave me his answers. There were all kinds of questions, from the most basic, such as, what kind of coffin do you want? To which he replied, any old box will do. To others, such as, where are your passwords? What shall I do about the car? And more sensitive ones as, who do you want near you as you die? And are there any of your personal items you would like to leave to anyone in particular? This one we discussed in much more detail. It was tough. These are difficult questions to ask somebody who knows he's going to be dying sooner than later. Feeling a great sense of achievement afterwards, we were really close and connected and loving for the rest of that weekend. Who would have thought that? It ended up being a couple of hours of slightly macabre enjoyment. Those questions, those answered questions were a godsend for me afterwards, especially in that first year after Philip died. You know, grief can hit you in really weird ways and it affects everybody in different ways. But one thing that is often common is that you can't think straight. It's difficult to make decisions. And statistics show that 79% of people in the UK think it's a really good idea to answer these questions beforehand. But only 21% of them actually do it and write it down. That's a huge gap. What I discovered with this book is that the chapter that most people talked about is the chapter about these questions that I've just read from. And lots of people approached me and said, this is such a good idea, I keep meaning to get around to doing it and I haven't done it. So let me ask you, how many of you have got a written plan for your business if you should no longer be here for whatever reason? Hands up. Oh my goodness, I thought there would be at least one. Right, okay. I have put together those questions. I did a whole lot more research. This is my new book. It's a PDF at the moment. Before I go, practical questions to ask and answer before you die. And to us in this room, we don't just have responsibility for ourselves, but for our businesses as well. And that means our clients and our suppliers and our employees. It's really something to think about. What I do now is that I run groups in response to these people saying they want to do something about it. It's a lot easier to do in the company of others or with somebody who's done it before. I run groups and I help individuals to actually get these questions answered, and not just the personal ones, but the business ones as well. I left the quiz out on the seats. That's for you to take away, maybe have a look at and see, because probably some of you will have done some of these and you might get a yes and that will make you feel good. It's just to help you to start thinking about this really important thing. And I also have an offer tonight, which is that anybody who's interested, please give me your business card. I will put it into a draw and one person will get a free place on my next local group that I'm running, which I think is in May at the moment, but any time in any of the groups this year. Thank you very much.